You're looking in the wrong place. It didn't mutate on its own, the heat and pressure made it change. The voice cut through the hallway like a scalpel through gauzes mall. Calm, too composed for a child. And yet, the moment it landed, the corridor fell silent. Inside the operations center, chaos had already erupted. Technicians scrambled from their consoles. Phones blared. Warning lights pulsed in angry red rhythm. A sharp scent of ozone hung in the air, like the building itself knew something had gone wrong. And in the private boardroom above, Albert Langston's hands froze mid-gesture, one palm suspended over a touchscreen model of his latest Cure the World pitch. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't need to. The room emptied in seconds. His advisors, assistants, and PR managers scrambled after him, their expensive shoes clacking down marble floors, trying to keep up. Albert moved with the urgency of someone used to Controlland for the first time in months. He could feel it slipping. Inside Lab 4, automated lockdown had already begun. Doors sealed. Oxygen vents hissed shut. Through the observation window, it looked deceptively calm. White walls, clear glass. A sample vial still resting inside the containment chamber, glowing faintly under the UV light. And yet, a line of red text blinked on the corner monitor. Thermal pressure failure. Core breach possible. Albert cursed under his breath. I told them to insulate those panels after the Boston test. Should we notify the board? Someone whispered behind him. Number? Not yet. His voice was iron. Not until we know what we're dealing with. But truthfully, they didn't know. That was the problem. Outside the lab's main corridor, unnoticed at first, a girl sat quietly on the linoleum bench next to the janitor's closet. No one saw her. No one ever really did. Her hoodie sleeves swallowed her hands. A tattered spiral-bound notebook balanced on her knees, half filled with strange diagrams, hand-drawn protein chains, and thermal fluctuation charts copied by memory. Her name was Maya William, 9 years old, daughter of the night shift cleaner. She'd been coming to Lang Bio every weeknight for nearly a year, following her mother through the silent back halls, absorbing everything she could from the walls, the monitors, and the scraps of technical printouts her mother tossed into the bin. That morning, Maya hadn't meant to enter the lab wing. She only wandered a little further than usual, curious why the lights flickered strangely at dawn. Now alarms were screaming, and still, no one saw her. Then came the moment. 2 men burst out of the control room, arguing in sharp, clipped voices. It's mutating, we have no idea what its new vector is. No, it's not mutating, it's reacting. That spike in its RNA signature tracks with the HVAC logs. What does that even mean? It means, Maya said softly, from the end of the corridor, you broke the temperature lock, and the pressure buildup cracked the secondary seal. That's how it got out. Both men froze. Their heads turned, eyes narrowing toward the voice, unsure if they'd imagined it. She stood, stepping into the corridor light. Small, dark skin, frizzy hair tied back with an old shoelace. Her boots mismatched, one glove missing. The taller man blinked. How the hell did you get in here? She didn't answer. She pointed to the status monitor behind the window. You didn't insulate the casing around Chamber B. It couldn't stabilize the thermal curve. The protein sequence shifted because of the pressure change, not because of genetic drift. That's why your models didn't catch it. Silence. The kind that tightens a room like a clenched fist. The shorter technician opened his mouth, then shut it again. Albert had just stepped into the hallway, trailed by security. He heard enough to glance at the girl, then at the 2 men, brows furrowing. Who is she? Maintenance crew's kid, I think. Huh. She shouldn't be in here, one guard said, already stepping forward. Maya flinched instinctively, but held her ground. I just thought, she said quietly, if you knew it wasn't mutating randomly, maybe you'd look in the right place. You're checking containment logs, but the failure started in the HVAC calibration protocol. I saw it glitch last night. No one checked the heat differentials. Albert stared at her like she was speaking another language. For a moment, no one said a word. Then a young technician, Caleb, his badge Reed, stepped forward. His eyes were wide, not with disbelief, but curiosity. She's not wrong, he murmured. There's a logged spike in Lab 4 at 412, It lines up with the protein distortion window we can't explain. Albert's gaze shifted, slowly. to Maya, to the guard, and back again. She's a child. Caleb didn't look away. So were most geniuses when they started. Someone scoffed in the back. Another muttered, "We're really listening to a janitor's kid now?" Maya's shoulders shrank, but she didn't run. Not this time. Albert signaled to security. "Get her out of here. Quietly. We'll deal with this another way." A hand reached for her elbow. Maya closed her notebook, pressed it tightly to her chest, and let them guide her away without a word. Not because she was afraid, because she'd learned early. People don't like to be corrected, especially not by the invisible. And yet, as she walked past the cluster of men in suits, she glanced back one last time. Only one face watched her go without dismissal. Caleb. He didn't smile. He just nodded, the barest nod, like a code being written in the dark. And Maya understood. Someone had heard her. Even if the others hadn't, she would be back. If that moment moved you, hit the like button to let us know you're standing with Maya, and don't forget to tell us who you're watching this with. Caleb sat in the break room long after the others had cleared out, his untouched coffee cooling beside him. Outside the fogged-up window, the sun barely crept above the gray skyline of Silver Springs. But inside his head, something was burning bright. The janitor's kid, Maya William. What she said kept replaying not just the correctness of her analysis, but the calm precision. No hesitation, no uncertainty. Just a soft-spoken certainty that had managed to paralyze a room full of postdoctoral researchers and biotech executives. He opened the lab logs again on his tablet, scrolling back to the 4:12 a.m. spike. She was right. The heat fluctuation occurred 3 minutes before the containment breach began to register. Then he opened the HVAC maintenance report for the past 3 weeks. And the calibration logs? Redacted. Locked behind administrative clearance. Caleb frowned. Why would something that basic be behind security restrictions? He got up, coffee forgotten, and made his way toward the sub-level storage, the only place where hard data archives still existed. As he entered, the smell of paper and cool concrete wrapped around him like memory. It reminded him of when he was a graduate student, when discovery still felt like magic, before politics and patent wars dulled the shine. He typed in a code. The drawer word open. He began flipping through the printed thermal tolerance sheets from the prior week. Then he found it. A thermal stress report flagged by a Level 3 technician named J. Marin. The note read, "Concerns about casing integrity chamber may not withstand summer pressure curve. Requesting review." Stamped. Denied. No action needed. Signed, A. Langston. Caleb's hand tightened around the folder. He closed it, tucked it under his arm, and walked briskly out. Meanwhile, across the building, Maya sat in the small employee lounge reserved for janitorial staff. Her mother, Denise, wiped down the vending machine with slow, practiced strokes. The silence between them was heavy, not with anger, but with exhaustion. "You can't keep doing that, Maya," Denise said gently, not looking up. "They don't want to hear from you." "But I wasn't wrong." "I know that, baby," her mother said, finally meeting her eyes. "But truth don't always get you invited to the table. Sometimes it just gets you escorted out." Maya looked down at her notebook. Her hands ran over the edges, where the paper had curled from her palm's warmth. "I just wanted to help," she whispered. Denise sat beside her and pulled her into a soft hug, the kind that felt like home. "You did more than help. You rattled them, and that's why they're scared." That evening, Caleb showed up in the janitor's hallway. He wasn't sure what he was expecting: an angry parent, a slammed door, maybe a warning letter. But when Maya opened the closet door and blinked up at him, notebook still in hand, he only said one thing. "Show me what you wrote." She hesitated. Then, slowly, she flipped the cover open. Each page was filled with scribbled notes. Not childish doodles, but calculated breakdowns, protein decay patterns, hypothetical pressure modulation solutions, even hand-drawn virus model variants annotated. "You made these?" Maya nodded. Caleb sat down on an upside-down mop bucket and stared in disbelief. "You charted protein denaturing at different heat levels. Where did you even learn this?" "Mostly from the old training slides. And the stickers on the equipment. I just remembered what numbers matched what outcomes." He turned another page. It was a temperature map of the facility, with red circles highlighting thermal weak points. "You marked the HVAC faults." I saw the calibration graph flashing red yesterday. No one came to check it. Caleb rubbed his hands over his face. Okay, he said finally. Maya, I think you saw something real, and I think someone didn't want others to notice it. Maya tilted her head. You mean they knew? I think Langston cut corners, and now he's hiding it. That night, while Maya and her mother headed home on the bus, Caleb returned to the Level 4 lab after hours, using his access badge. Inside the system console, he found the modified virus evolution logs, but the last 3 entries had been wiped. Gone. No trace. He checked the backup server. Encrypted. He pulled out his phone and texted a friend in IT with a quiet favor. At home, Maya sat at the small kitchen table, the smell of her mother's cooking wafting in from the stove. She turned another page in her notebook, this time starting a fresh section. Countermeasures. She began listing potential ways to restabilize the altered genome, using low-energy inhibitors concepts she barely had the terminology for, but instinctively understood. Outside, the summer wind rattled the screen door. Somewhere in the city, sirens echoed faintly. At Langbio, the public statement had already gone out. A minor technical malfunction. All systems under review. But it wasn't minor. And the systems weren't under review. They were under suppression. The next morning, Caleb returned not with flowers, not with apology, but with a portable whiteboard and 3 lab printouts. He sat cross-legged on the floor across from Maya in the storage closet. You want to solve this? She nodded, eyes wide. He placed a marker in her hand. Then let's make them listen. And as she drew the first strand of the altered viral sequence on the board, the invisible child of the cleaning crew became something else. The first spark in a quiet war. The virus was real. The breach was worse than they admitted. But so was the solution. And her name was Maya. At 7:45 the next morning, the Langbio Central Lab was alive with a quiet tension. No sirens, no alarms, but every technician moved a little faster, glanced a little more over their shoulder. Rumors were already whispering through the concrete walls like steam from broken pipes. Something had happened. Something real. But no one dared say the word outbreak. Behind the building, away from security cameras and prying eyes, Caleb and Maya stood outside a steel door labeled restricted, biohazard containment access only. It was called the Red Door by staff, half out of fear, half out of legend. Nothing good ever came from behind it. But if Maya's theory was right, what started in there was no longer just in there. This is where it mutated, Maya said softly, staring at the rusted handle. Caleb nodded. The Gen 4 viral strain wasn't supposed to leave Phase 2 testing, but Langston ordered heat acceleration protocols without triple seal reinforcement. That's where it began to crack. Heat and pressure destabilized the capsid, Maya added, eyes narrowing. And once that happened, the genome folded wrong and replicated at a rate no one predicted. Caleb reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small data drive. I pulled backup logs from last month. Langston deleted every trace in the main system, but the server in cold storage still held shadows. He tapped the drive. It's all here. And if what we're seeing is true, this isn't just about internal leaks. There's been community exposure. Langbio lied. Maya didn't flinch. She reached into her backpack and took out the composition notebook she carried like armor. The newest pages were filled with early-stage counter-agents, some of them theoretical, others dangerously close to viable. I've been mapping out an inhibitor, she said. It's not a cure, but it might stabilize the mutation, stop it from spreading further. Caleb stared. You did this overnight? I don't sleep much. He cracked a smile despite himself. You remind me of someone I used to be. They entered through the red door. It hissed open with the reluctant groan of neglected machinery. The inside smelled of antiseptic, copper, and something older like burned metal and ozone. Maya followed close, her eyes scanning everything. Rows of containment tanks, broken ventilation monitors, a thin trail of condensation along the east wall. It was colder than expected, too cold. This room's been temperature dampened, she whispered. They're trying to delay another breach, but the damage is already done. In the far corner, Caleb found the unit logs. He plugged the data drive into the access terminal and began uploading. As he did, Maya wandered toward a small refrigerated cabinet, her eyes locking onto a series of vials with handwritten codes. MX4X, MX4XA, MX4XB. Wait, she said. These are variant splits, each marked after heat exposure trials. They're tracking each mutation pathway separately. She flipped through the clipboard beside it. One entry stood out. Subject the 14th of December eased within 72 hours. Non-human transmission confirmed. Her stomach turned. Caleb. They tested this on animals. And didn't report it to oversight. Outside the red door, someone was coming. Footsteps. Two voices, one sharp and fast, the other heavier, slower. Caleb killed the screen and grabbed the drive. We need to move. They ducked into a side corridor just as Langston and his chief of operations, Dr. Meredith Bell, entered the containment wing. Langston's voice echoed, I don't care what the readings say. Keep the lockdown tight. If this leaks, it's not just a scandal, it's prison time. Bell replied coolly. Someone already knows. There's chatter on the internals. I'll handle it. Hidden behind a row of discarded isolation carts, Maya watched Langston pass. His white coat was too clean. His badge shone too bright. But something about his eye-sit wasn't just fear. It was calculation. He wasn't panicking. He was planning. That afternoon, Maya and Caleb met again in the underground parking structure. The tension between them had shifted from curiosity to urgency. Maya unfolded a schematic of the HVAC system. If we cut off the east vent line, we can contain the remaining airborne strain, but only if we neutralize the buildup in the Phase 2 chamber. With what? Caleb asked. I designed an aerosol agent, Maya said. It binds to the mutated protein. If it doesn't work, the pressure buildup will rupture the filters by Thursday. He blinked. How do you even know this stuff? I don't know. I just see it. The pieces fit. He looked at her, really looked this time out as a child, not as a janitor's daughter but as someone standing in the storm, holding the map everyone else had missed. You're not supposed to be here, he said. But maybe that's why you're the only one who sees clearly. Maya shrugged. Being invisible has its uses. They made a plan. Tomorrow night, when the maintenance cycle rebooted at 1 a.m., Caleb would trigger a lab-wide diagnostic shutdown. That would give them 22 minutes of total system control, long enough to deploy the aerosol, cut the vent, and download the final variant logs to an off-site server. After that, Caleb said, we either save this building or blow the whistle and bring it all down. Maya tightened the straps of her backpack. Either way, someone has to stop it. He extended his hand. She took it. For a moment, in the dim hum of the underground, a janitor's daughter and a broken-down scientist became something more an unlikely alliance, forged not by power, but by truth. The virus was evolving, but so were they. And by dawn, the red door would not be the scariest place in Langbio anymore. The hallway was silent at 12:59 a.m., eerily so. The soft whir of servers, the occasional hiss of coolant from vent lines, these were the only sounds left awake in Langbio's east wing. But below the surface, in the sub-level utility corridor, Maya crouched beside an open floor panel, her hands trembling slightly as she prepared the aerosol delivery canister. Caleb's voice crackled in her earpiece. T-1 minute. Diagnostic reboot begins on my mark. Maya took a deep breath and nodded, though no one could see it. She adjusted her rubber gloves, then tapped a tiny sensor on the side of the silver canister. A soft green light blinked. This was it. Across the lab campus, all systems would go into diagnostic stasis, ventilation, temperature regulation, data logging, surveillance. It was meant for deep maintenance checks, but tonight, it was their window. System going down now, Caleb said. You're live, Maya. 22 minutes and counting. She sprang into motion. The Phase 2 containment chamber was 5 corridors ahead and 2 levels up. Maya moved fast but silent, her shoes wrapped in cloth to muffle sound. The building felt different under the shutdown, less alive, more haunted. When she reached the chamber door, the biometric scanner blinked red. Caleb, the door. Override on its way, Caleb replied, typing furiously from a secured access terminal. Give me 10 seconds. The scanner flickered, then turned green with a soft chime. Maya slipped inside. The air in Phase 2 was heavier. It clung to her skin like damp cloth, full of tension, of history. The mutation had begun here quietly, without warning. Now, its fingerprints were everywhere. Corroded steel, damaged air filters, a faint shimmer on the floor under the UV lights. She lifted the canister, aligned it to the central release valve, and turned the dial. A low hiss filled the room. The aerosol, laced with Maya's hastily synthesized protein binder, dispersed into the filtered air. Its molecules sought out the mutated virus, attaching themselves, blocking replication. It was an imperfect solution, but it would buy them time slow the spread, reduce the threat. 5 minutes gone. She turned back toward the corridor when she heard it. Footsteps. Not Caleb's. Someone else. She ducked behind a decontamination cart, holding her breath. Through the chamber window, a tall figure appeared in the hallway. Dr. Meredith Bell, the COO. She was holding a tablet and speaking into a Bluetooth earpiece. Her voice was cold, crisp. I'm standing in phase 2 now. Yes, aerosol traces are confirmed. Someone's trying to interfere. Maya's blood froze. Bell paused, scanning the room like a hawk. Initiate lockdown of sublevel 1. No exits until we find out who's inside. Maya slipped backward, pressing herself against the wall. Caleb, she whispered. We've got a problem. I see it. She's locking down. You have 7 minutes before doors auto-seal. Is there another way out? Maintenance shaft behind the protein filter marked blue. It'll be tight. Maya moved fast, crawling through the narrow passage, dragging the canister with her. The metal scratched her jacket. Dust stung her eyes, but she kept going until she reached a vent gate. She kicked it. Hard. Once. Twice. On the third kick, it gave way. She tumbled out into a dark storage bay and scrambled to her feet. Her watch blinked. 14 minutes in. Time was bleeding. Caleb's voice returned, strained. Maya, I'm in trouble too. Langston's headed to my terminal. I need to transfer the variant logs now or they're gone. Do it. I'll find a way to reach the server room. Meet you there. She ran again through dim corridors and around locked stairwells. Every second mattered. The virus could be evolving faster than she could think. Her formula might not hold, and if Langston caught them, the world would never know what really happened. She turned a corner and nearly collided with a janitor cart. A man in a dark hoodie looked up, one eye bruised, the other alert. Margus, Maya gasped. Her father. What are you doing here? She whispered. Security sent everyone home, but I saw the shutdown on the schedule. I knew you'd be in the thick of it. Dad, they're covering up a mutation. Langston's lying. Caleb has the proof. We're trying to stop it. Marcus's face went still. Then he nodded slowly. You know where they keep the backups? Maya blinked. The offline archives? Yep. Take the service tunnel. I'll stall Bell. I used to wax her damn floor. She owes me. Dad. He touched her shoulder. Go. Your mother would have been proud. And just like that, he vanished down the hallway. Maya ran again. At minute 19, she reached the server bay. Caleb was there, sweat dripping from his brow, fingers flying over keys. The data was transferring slowly, too slowly. She slammed the canister down beside him. We've neutralized one chamber, but the mutation may already be external. Caleb nodded. This drive has logs, but it's not enough. We need to expose this. Then we go public. A pause. Then a voice boomed from the intercom. Maya William, Caleb Ford, step away from the console. You have 5 seconds. Langston, in the control room, watching. Maya met Caleb's eyes. It's not over. He removed the flash drive and handed it to her. Go. What about you? I'll delay them. Number. Maya. I'll delay them. She took the drive, turned, and disappeared into the shadows. Behind her, Caleb stood tall, waiting for the footsteps that came seconds later. As guards burst through the door, Caleb smiled faintly. Somewhere in the dark, a girl no one believed was rewriting the ending of a story built on lies. And this time, the truth had legs. 3 minutes left. But a lifetime had already changed. Rain poured down in sheets as Maya emerged into the night, the lab compound receding behind her like a cold memory. She clutched the flash drive in her palm so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her chest heaved, Not from the sprint, but from the weight of what she now carried. Truth, evidence, and danger. The employee exit was supposed to be locked down, but her father's janitor keycard still held low-level override access. With one swipe, the side gate buzzed open. Maya didn't look back. She ducked through and disappeared into the thick trees lining the edge of the Lang Bio property. She had only one destination in mind. 10 miles away, in a nondescript office building in downtown Bethesda, a retired virologist named Dr. Elaine Mercer ran a private research clinic for neuroimmune disorders. She had been one of Lang Bio's early founders until she resigned 5 years ago over what she called ethical fog. Caleb had found her contact through an old encrypted mailing list, and according to him, if there was one person who could help verify the mutation and weaponized intent of the virus, it was her. Maya arrived soaked and shivering. Her hoodie clung to her like a second skin. The door to the clinic was locked, but a small buzzer lit up when she stepped under the awning. "Who is it?" a woman's voice asked, staticky through the speaker. "My name is Maya William. I have a drive that contains information about a virus mutation. It's from Lang Bio Labs. Please, I need help." A pause. Then, "Come in." The door unlocked with a solid click. Inside, the clinic was dim but warm. Dr. Mercer appeared moments later, wrapped in a shawl, her silver-gray hair falling down her shoulders like soft rain. She studied Maya in silence before motioning her forward. "Let's see what you have," she said, leading Maya to a lab terminal in the back room. Maya handed over the drive. "My friend Caleb and there's a systems analyst. We pulled all of this during the diagnostics window. I deployed a protein binder in one of the chambers, but they're going to come after us. They know we saw too much." Dr. Mercer didn't respond immediately. She inserted the drive and began scrolling. The screen filled with logs, audio files, thermal scans, and more. There was one file labeled Langston 2 a.m., timestamp 2 nights prior. She clicked. The voice was clear, crisp, familiar. "We proceed with the vector test on isolated subjects. Pressure and heat will simulate spread conditions. Any loss can be classified under field error." Dr. Mercer leaned back, her lips parting in shock. "My God, this isn't mutation by accident. They're simulating a bioweapon protocol." Maya's hands trembled. Dr. Mercer turned to her. "You understand what you're carrying, Maya? This is more than just science gone wrong. This is a planned escalation and experiment with human lives as variables." Maya nodded. "I know. That's why we have to go public. But you won't last a day if you do it alone. Caleb's still inside, and Langston won't let either of you walk away." Dr. Mercer paused, thinking. Then she pulled out an old yellow notepad and began scribbling. "There's a journalist, Peter Rylance, former Washington Post, got ousted years ago for digging too deep into Pentagon vaccine trials. He runs a podcast now, The Unredacted Hour. Small audience but loyal, and he's fearless. Will he believe me? If you bring him this, he won't just believe you, he'll start a war." Maya took the notepad. "Where do I find him?" "He lives off-grid, in a cabin north of Frederick. I'll mark the map." "But Maya," Dr. Mercer's gaze softened, "they'll send people to stop you. This isn't just about Lang Bio anymore. You've crossed into something darker." "I'm not backing out." "Doctor," Mercer smiled faintly, "then you'd better get moving. I'll set up a decoy trail, buy you a few hours." As Maya left the clinic, dawn was breaking in the east. The clouds still hung heavy, but light had begun to filter through. She took a borrowed backpack, packed with protein bars, a burner phone, a printed map, and the drive now sealed in an aluminum pouch. By the time she reached the bus station, a new alert hit every newsfeed. Lang Bio executive accuses employee of cybercrime. Missing teen suspected in major data breach. Her face was on the screen. Her name was in the headline. They were framing her. She pulled her hoodie low and sank into the back seat of the rural-bound bus. 2 farmers sat nearby, speaking about corn yields and missing deliveries. Maya stared out the window, heart pounding. They had flipped the narrative so fast it made her dizzy. But the truth was still in her hand. As the bus rumbled down I-270, she whispered to herself, "You can twist the facts, but you can't erase them." 3 hours later, she stood at the edge of a gravel path leading deep into the woods. Birds chirped overhead. No sign of guards, no black SUVs. just the sound of wind through old oaks and the scent of pine needles. She followed the path, stepping carefully over roots and through puddles. The trees grew thicker. Then up ahead a clearing. A cabin. Smoke curled from its chimney. She approached the door and knocked twice. It opened slowly. A tall, bearded man in his 60s eyed her through the screen. "You Maya?" She nodded. He opened the door wider. "I've been expecting you." "How?" He gestured to a satellite radio on his table. "Your doctor friend. She knows how to whisper loud enough." Maya handed him the drive. Peter Rylance sat down at his desk, slotted it into a terminal, and began scanning. After 10 minutes, he looked up. His face was pale. "You've just lit a match in a room full of gasoline." Maya said nothing. Then Peter looked her dead in the eye. "Let's burn the house down." Peter Rylance's cabin was quiet, but the silence was not one of peace. It was the taut, electric hush that comes just before a storm. He stared at his screen for a full minute after watching Langston's recorded confession again. Maya sat nearby, clutching a mug of warm tea she hadn't touched. Her fingers trembled slightly. Not from cold this time, but from anticipation. She had crossed a line, and she knew it. There was no turning back. Peter finally spoke. "They'll be watching every outlet. Your name's already on a dozen government watch lists. And Lang Bio's legal team will hit me with everything they've got if I publish this as is." Maya didn't blink. "So what do we do?" He stood, walked over to a shelf, and pulled down an old microphone. "We don't wait. We speak." He connected the mic to his broadcasting rig, an old but powerful transmitter that looked like something out of the Cold War. "Most of my audience thinks I'm a paranoid relic. But they listen, and more importantly, they record. This isn't about views anymore. This is about proof." Peter flicked on the transmitter, and a low hum filled the room. A red light blinked. "Live." "Maya," he said gently, "you have one shot. Speak to them not as a scientist, as a witness." Maya approached the mic. Her voice was soft at first, but as she spoke, it steadied. "My name is Maya William. I'm 13 years old. My mother was Dr. Cynthia William. She died from a lab infection 2 years ago. Everyone said it was an accident, but it wasn't." She paused, took a breath, continued. 3 days ago, I was inside Lang Bio Laboratories. I witnessed an unauthorized genetic test on a viral strain that had mutated under artificial pressure and heat. The results were hidden, the files suppressed, but I retrieved them, and I can prove it." Peter gave her a nod, signaling her to go deeper. "I'm not a virologist. I'm not a politician, but I know what I saw, and I know what it could do to people like you, like my mom. The virus they're experimenting on, it doesn't need a war to spread. It just needs a warm building and a cracked vent." She leaned closer. "I'm not asking for trust. I'm asking for vigilance. Download the file, back it up, spread it. If I disappeared, stop talking." Peter ended the broadcast. Silence returned, heavy, real. Then his inbox began to ping. 1 email, then 10, then 100. Listeners were responding, some sending support, others offering to mirror the files. One message simply read, "I've got 3 million followers. It's going up now." Peter looked over. "It's working." But before he could say more, his satellite phone rang. He answered, listened, then hung up, face darkened. "They've traced your voice print. Homeland's on the move." Maya stood. "Then we run?" "No," Peter replied, calmer than she expected. "We finish." He began uploading the full data packet to multiple off-grid servers. "I've got redundancies. One in Iceland, another in South Africa. They can't kill it all." Then he turned to her. "You need to go. I'll buy you time." She opened her mouth to protest, but he raised a hand. "This is bigger than me. You made the world look. Now let them stare." He handed her a small flash drive. "This holds the last version. If you meet anyone who can amplify it, give it to them. There's a man in New York, former FDA. I'll text you the address." Outside, the sound of rotors approached, distant but unmistakable. Black choppers. Maya grabbed her pack, slung it over her shoulder, and turned to Peter one last time. "Why are you helping me?" He smiled faintly. "Because once, I was the one screaming into the dark. No one listened. But you lit a flare." She nodded, then slipped out the back. The woods were dark now, shadows stretching long and hungry. Maya moved quickly but carefully, heart pounding, shoes wet with morning dew. A single flashlight beam darted across a nearby ridge, but she ducked behind a fallen log just in time. She waited, breath shallow. When the beam passed, she moved again faster, quieter. She followed the trail Peter had marked with tiny yellow ribbons tied to tree branches. After 20 minutes, she reached a gravel road. No cars, no lights. But just as she was about to keep walking, a pair of headlights turned the bend. A black sedan. Too clean, too quiet. She froze. The car slowed, then screeched to a halt beside her. The window rolled down. "Get in," a voice barked. It was a woman, mid-40s, fierce eyes, government jacket. Maya backed away. "Who are you?" "I'm with the Federal Oversight Bureau. I'm not here to hurt you. You have a drive?" Maya clutched her bag tighter. The woman opened her badge. "Name's Talia Ramirez. I'm the one who flagged your mother's death as suspicious. Been following this trail ever since. Now get in before they find us both." Maya hesitated, then climbed in. As they sped away, Maya stared out the back window. Over the treetops, she saw a faint plume of smoke. Peter's cabin. Gone, but in its place, something had ignited across forums, across networks, across people who had once been silent. Not anymore. The truth had a voice, and it had just spoken. The car sliced through the early morning fog as it entered the outskirts of Baltimore, weaving between rusted warehouses and crumbling concrete bridges. Maya kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting black SUVs or helicopters to descend from the sky. But there was nothing behind them, just empty streets and flickering street lamps. Talia Ramirez drove like someone who had done this too many times to count fast, but never reckless, eyes constantly scanning the road ahead. Maya gripped the flash drive in her pocket like it was a lifeline. "You knew my mother?" she asked finally, voice low. Talia gave a short nod. "I worked in oversight. We flagged Langbio's funding requests 5 years ago. Your mother submitted reports that didn't match their internal summaries. Smart woman, brave. That's why they discredited her, blacklisted her. Then she got sick." "She didn't just get sick," Maya said, anger rising. "They infected her." Talia didn't deny it. "Langston has ties that run deeper than just corporate power. Political campaigns, defense contracts, foreign labs. You're not just holding a file, Maya. You're holding a match over a pile of soaked gasoline." The car turned down a side alley and stopped behind a boarded-up fire station. The brick exterior was charred, the windows long gone. Talia led her through a side entrance, past a steel door that looked out of place in such a rundown building. Inside, the world changed. A long, sterile hallway stretched outlined with LED lights and thick reinforced walls. Maya followed Talia into a secure room filled with monitors, blinking servers, and 3 other people already working furiously. "This is our node," Talia explained. "We're a shadow cell within oversight, not officially recognized, not officially funded, but we exist, and now so do you." A man in a baseball cap turned around. "She's the one? The kid from the broadcast?" Maya gave a quiet nod. He whistled. "You've got guts, girl." The woman at the far terminal pulled up the data from the flash drive. "It's all here. Gene sequence logs, thermal stress reports, even time-stamped footage from inside Lab B. Holy hell. Upload it to the CleanNet," Talia ordered. "Use the dead drops. Mask it through Copenhagen, then Jakarta." Maya moved toward the screen. She watched as the files she'd stolen risked her life for spread across encrypted networks. Each server they hit would bounce the data again. Within an hour, whistleblower groups, independent researchers, and underground media hubs would have it all. But even then, it might not be enough. "They'll spin it," Maya said. "Say it's fake, AI generated, that I'm just some girl with a grudge." "You're right," Talia replied. "Which is why we need more than data. We need witnesses, survivors, someone inside Langbio who hasn't been bought off." She pulled up a list of names on the monitor. These are former staff clean techs, junior virologists, security guards. Some left quietly. Some were forced out. One of them might talk. Maya scanned the list. One name jumped out. Devin Merrick. She had seen that name on several lab memos. He was a junior containment officer. He'd flagged a sensor failure in the same corridor where her mother had been exposed. "Find him," Maya said. An hour later, they had a location. Devin worked as a janitor now, in a high school across town. The school was quiet, locked for spring break. Talia parked 3 blocks away and approached on foot with Maya and the tech guy Riley in tow. Devin Merrick was sweeping near the gym entrance when they found him. He froze as soon as he saw them. "I don't talk to feds," he said quickly. "We're not official," Talia replied. "We're here about Langbio, about what happened in Containment Delta." Devin's face paled. Maya stepped forward. "My mother was Dr. Cynthia William. You tried to warn her." His eyes flicked to her, then dropped to the floor. "I tried. I really did. They silenced me, scrubbed my reports. I've been trying to forget ever since." "We don't need you to remember everything," Maya said gently. "Just tell the truth." Devin looked around the empty gym, then back at them. Finally, he nodded. Back at the fire station node, Devin sat in front of the camera. Talia started recording. "State your name," she said. "Devin Merrick, former containment officer, Langbio Labs. Tell us what happened." "I flagged pressure inconsistencies in the Gen Mod wing. I knew something was off. The alarms weren't triggering even when thresholds were passed. I emailed maintenance, upper staff, even Langston. They all ignored it." He swallowed hard. "Then Dr. William got sick, and I knew." "What did you do?" "I downloaded the logs. I still have copies. I've been afraid to share them, but I don't want to carry it anymore." He handed Maya a second drive. "It shows they altered the alert parameters, raised the tolerance beyond safe levels. They made the lab look secure. But it wasn't. The virus was leaking weeks before the first signs showed up." Talia nodded to Riley, who began verifying the files immediately. "It's a pattern," she murmured. "They didn't just cover it up. They engineered the perception of safety. And they're still doing it," Maya added. That night, Devin's testimony joined the broadcast. Combined with Maya's voice and the newly verified sensor logs, the story went global. The headlines exploded. "Whistleblower reveals biotech giant fake safety reports teen witness sparks worldwide outcry." Langbio files subpoenaed after child scientist uncovers hidden outbreak. Anonymous insider. "It's worse than you think." Talia turned to Maya as they watched the chaos unfold on the screens. "You just moved the world." Maya didn't smile. "Not yet. They're going to push back," she said. "Hard." Talia nodded. "Let them. Now the world's watching." But as the headlines spread, somewhere in a private room lit only by the glow of a glass wall display, Alan Langston watched, silent. He didn't rage. He didn't curse. He simply leaned back, steepled his finger sand, whispered, "Then we escalate." The sun hadn't risen yet, but the city felt 10 degrees hotter. Maya sat near the ventilation shaft in the firehouse's underground node, trying to ignore the sudden heat as if it were just a trick of the nerves. But it wasn't. Something had shifted in the air and in the silence between alerts. At 4:12 a.m., Talia burst into the room with her phone pressed to her ear. "They're here," she said flatly. "Not Langbio, not the police, private contractors, likely hired muscle. They're sweeping our outer perimeter." Riley was already unplugging the servers. "We've got 15 minutes, maybe less." Devin's eyes widened. "You said we were off the radar." "We were," Talia replied. "But Devin's face hit every major network last night. And Maya? They know exactly who she is now. And worse, they know what she's capable of." Maya's hands curled into fists. "They're trying to erase us." "No," Talia said, handing her a small drive. "They're trying to delay the inevitable. This has everything: logs, footage, Devin's testimony, backup files from Langbio's legacy system. If something happens to us, make sure this sees the light of day." "But..." "No time for arguing," Talia cut her off. "You and Riley are heading south. There's an old contact near Richmond. He can hide you." "What about you?" "I'm staying. Someone has to cover the retreat. And this system needs to burn clean. No trace." Maya's throat tightened. She wanted to fight, to argue, but Talia's eyes left no room. Outside, the sound of tires crunching gravel grew louder. Riley grabbed his bag, slung it over his shoulder. "Let's move." Maya turned to Devin. "Are you coming?" He hesitated, then nodded. "I've run long enough. They exited through the fire escape tunnel, hidden behind a row of old lockers, just as the first boots hit the ground floor. Maya looked back once and saw Talia closing the steel door behind them, her silhouette bathed in emergency red light. The tunnel spat them out 4 blocks away into an alley. A dusty sedan waited. Riley got behind the wheel, Devon in the back. Maya sat passenger side, the drive clenched in her hand like a secret that had become her entire life. They drove in silence for miles, past crumbling gas stations, past shuttered diners with "for lease" signs half blown off. The world felt different now, not just because she was being hunted, but because something was shifting inside her too. A conviction hardening, a purpose setting roots. By the time they reached the safe house in rural Virginia, the sky had shifted from ink to violet. A wooden cabin stood alone under tall pines, looking like a place time had forgotten. Riley knocked 3 times on the back door. A metal slide opened, then a voice. "Took you long enough." The man who answered was old, white beard, deep crow's feet, wore an army jacket with faded patches. "Name's Buck," he said. "Talia called. You kids stirred up a hornet's nest." He ushered them in. Inside was a mix of tech and tradition, wooden walls lined with modern surveillance gear. Buck moved like someone who'd lived through more covert operations than he could count. "They've frozen the feeds," he said, pointing to the monitors. "News anchors are backpedaling, some calling it a hoax, others blaming hackers. It's the classic moves, mother, the story and noise." Devon looked like he might be sick. "But," Buck added, "some people are listening. A retired CDC official came forward 30 minutes ago, backed Maya's claims. Says Langbio got exemptions for safety protocols due to national urgency. It's unraveling, slowly, but it's happening." Maya felt the weight on her chest shift slightly. Buck turned to her. "You've done good, kid. But this ain't over. Not by a long shot. The next move is yours." Riley sat down beside her. "We should counter." "How?" Devon asked. "We're outnumbered, outgunned." Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out the drive Talia gave her. "This isn't just data," she said. "It's a map." Buck frowned. "Map to what?" "To the facility," she replied. "The real one. Langbio's secondary site. Not the one in the press photos, the one where the mutations actually started." Talia suspected it was buried beneath a decommissioned coal refinery outside Charlotte. "This drive confirms it." Riley leaned forward. "You're saying they're still running tests?" Maya nodded. "And if we can get footage from inside real time, undeniable proof it'll break wide open." Buck rubbed his chin. "That's a suicide mission." "Maybe," Maya said. "But it's the only way to end this before they regroup, before Langston spins it again." Devon looked at the monitor. "We get in. And then what?" Maya's voice didn't shake. "We show the world what they tried to hide. We show them what truth looks like, unfiltered, unedited, undeniable." Buck looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "You've got 3 days," he said. "Gear up, rest, plan every move. After that, we take the fight to their doorstep." That night, as Maya sat on the porch under the weight of the coming battle, she thought of her mother, of the lives lost in silence, of the girl she used to be and the girl the world now saw. They wanted her quiet, erased, but instead, she had become the storm. The moon hung low over the North Carolina hills, casting pale silver light across the broken silhouette of the abandoned coal refinery. Wind howled through the rusted metal pipes and half-toppled smokestacks. But Maya wasn't looking at the sky. She was focused on the blacked-out complex below, its perimeter patrolled not by guards in uniforms, but silent drones that shimmered like insects in the dark. Beside her, Buck adjusted the infrared binoculars, his breath fogging the lens. "You see that ridge along the south wall? That's your window. Their motion sensors sweep in intervals 15 seconds of dead zone. That's when you run." Maya crouched lower, zippered her jacket. Her heart beat in a slow, steady rhythm, now not out of fear, but resolve. Behind her, Riley powered up the relay device. Devon checked the comms, his hands less shaky than they'd been days before. "This is it," Buck said. "This is your moment." Maya looked at him. "It's not just mine anymore. It belongs to everyone who was silenced." Buck nodded, then handed her a small, pin-sized camera. "Whatever you see, make sure it sees you back." Moments later, they moved. Under the cover of darkness, the team descended the ridge, Every step calculated, every breath timed. They passed the first set of motion beams with barely a whisper. Riley disabled the panel on the side gate, feeding in code Buck had procured from an old contact. With a soft buzz, the gate unlatched. They were in. The inside of the refinery was colder than expected. Shadows stretched like claws across the concrete. Maya followed the map embedded in Talia's drive, leading them past storage tanks and dead conveyors until they reached a locked security door. Devon stepped forward. "I've got this." A few taps on his tablet, a brief flicker of green, and the door slid open. What they saw beyond it froze them in place. Rows of glass-walled chambers. Inside each, strange organisms writhed in containment fluid. Viruses mutated under manipulated pressure just like Maya had predicted. Each chamber was labeled with long strings of numbers, and the Lang Bio logo burned into steel. Maya walked forward slowly, her camera live, streaming directly to a secure satellite feed. "These aren't simulations," she whispered. "These are live strains. They've been hiding the origin of the outbreak and engineering the next one." Footsteps echoed down the hallway. "Hide," Buck hissed over comms. Maya ducked behind a supply cart, Riley and Devon crouching beside her. Two men in tactical gear passed, carrying what looked like a specimen container between them. Their badges read, Tempest Holdings, a private contractor known for doing the dirty work no official agency would touch. Once the hallway cleared, they moved again. The goal was deeper, the server room. As they reached the final corridor, the floor vibrated faintly. "They're launching another protocol," Devon muttered. "This isn't just a backup server. This is an active trial zone." They reached the server room, a cavernous chamber lined with blinking towers and humming machinery. Riley plugged in the device Buck had built, initiating a deep sync. Data flooded the portable drive. Test logs, real-time footage, internal memos. Maya scanned the names on the file. Some were politicians, others were investors. She recognized Langston's initials again and again. "Got it," Riley said. "Let's go." But as they turned, the alarms went off. A blinding white light flooded the corridor. Voices shouted through speakers. "Unauthorized access detected. Protocol L7 initiated." Doors slammed shut behind them. They were trapped. Devon spun to the emergency console. "I can override, but I need time." "We don't have it," Maya said. "They'll be here in minutes." Then Buck's voice crackled in her earpiece. "North stairwell, 40 feet down. You'll see a chutate drops outside the perimeter. But it's a one-way trip." Maya hesitated. "We can't leave without the files." "You've got the files," Riley said, lifting the drive. "Now we get them out." Devon finally forced the door. "Go now." They sprinted, boots pounding metal. Shots echoed behind them, Tempest guards swarming in. Riley tossed a flashbang behind him, blinding the pursuit for a few precious seconds. They reached the chute, barely more than a steel tunnel running down at a steep angle. No light, no guarantees. Maya looked at them. "Go." Devon slid first, then Riley. Then Maya launched herself in, the cold steel whipping past her shoulders as the chute dropped her into the forest below. They landed hard, tumbling out into dry leaves, bruised, winded but alive. The safe house was 30 miles west. They ran for the extraction point, Maya clutching the drive tight against her chest. By dawn, they were back in Buck's bunker. The data was safe. The footage had gone live. Within hours, networks scrambled. Fact-checkers tried to deny it, but the evidence was overwhelming. Footage of live viruses, internal memos authorizing illegal trials, voices of whistleblowers now unmasked. A nationwide broadcast aired Maya's footage, unedited. It couldn't be spun. Langston was arrested within 48 hours. Shareholders bailed. Lang Bio stock crashed. Protests erupted nationwide. Investigations widened Tempest Holdings. Multiple senators, biotech lobbyists' names kept pouring in. But for Maya, it wasn't about revenge. It was about justice finally speaking. 3 days later, she stood in front of a town hall in Georgia, facing a crowd of hundreds. Microphones pointed at her. Cameras rolled. She didn't read a statement. She didn't have a script. She just spoke from the place inside that had been silent for too long. "I was told I was too young, too poor, too black. That science belonged to someone else. But today, You're looking at the reason that lie ends. The virus may have mutated, but so have we. We're no longer afraid to speak, to question, to rise. The crowd erupted, and somewhere in that sea of faces, Maya saw her mother's smile, felt Talia's hand on her shoulder, and knew this was just the beginning.